Don't let the Sun Belt affiliation fool you. James Madison is still a good football team.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of Locked On Louisville. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is year number 6 of covering U of L, year number 4 of hosting this show, and I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week, your team every day. Be sure to leave a comment in the YouTube section below because that is a great way to help the show continue to grow. We're continuing James Madison preview week ahead of tomorrow night's game against the Dukes. We're going to discuss the Cardinals fan base's perception of this JMU team, how drastically different some of the perception has been, but also explain that while James Madison is better than the overall perception, the Cardinals still should win this game. We'll dive into the weekly mailbag, answering questions about Isaac Brown's Heisman candidacy, how important style points are, a new men's basketball visit, and much more. But first, today's episode of the show is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. The Louisville fan base's discussion centered around James Madison has been particularly intriguing to me because the perception of the Cardinals' opponent is extremely different depending on who you ask. Like, there is a portion of this fan base that is petrified for this game. And then there's another portion that, they just view it as any other non-Power 4 out-of-conference game against a team that you're supposed to beat early on in the season. Now, like many cases, I think that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And I will say that I believe that James Madison is better than the overall perception of the fan base. I think that there are some that echo what I'm going to say, but I think the overall perception is that James Madison is a team that the Cardinals should be able to walk all over. I'm here to tell you that I don't believe that to be the case, at least on paper. And that is pretty important, and I'll explain it here in just a second. This isn't a game that Louisville is going to just breeze through, in my opinion, at least, again, on paper. The Cardinals opened up as a 16.5-point favorite. I've seen that as low as 13.5 on some sites. FanDuel right now has it hovering between that 13.5 and 16.5. But I think that's the root of the lack of perception, if you will, is that this isn't really personal to James Madison, but when you hear a non-Power 4 school's name from the Sun Belt or another conference along those lines, it's not going to strike a ton of fear. Like, there's not going to be an immediate, oh my goodness, we really have to watch out or we're going to lose this game. There are very few non-Power 4 teams that can even, spark that threat. Boise State is one, and that's because of the historical stuff that they've done over the past 20 years. So it's not against James Madison personally, but you hear the name James Madison, you hear a team from the Sun Belt, and your first instinct is going to be able to tell you that, hey, you're going to be able to breeze through this game. And I'm not going to sit here and try to refute the argument or support the argument, but the Sun Belt has not been good this season, at least in week 1. But I'm not really putting James Madison in the conversation with the Sun Belt because I do think that the Dukes are the best team in that conference. They were the heavy preseason favorite. This is a team that had legitimate preseason juice, receiving other receiving votes from the AP Top 25. So the only way that you're going to get that recognition before the season is from showing the committee or the computer rankings that you're legit. And last year they went 9-4. They went toe-to-toe with an ACC team on the road in Chapel Hill They gave up 50, but they beat the team by 20 by scoring 70 against North Carolina. Now, North Carolina struggled to get to bowl eligibility last year, but case in point, this is a program that in their short time in the FBS, like they are willing to go toe-to-toe with teams in the power conferences, especially in the ACC. And Bob Chesney, second-year head coach, throughout his career, he has done a great job of getting his guys ready for these big games. Like this very well could be viewed as James Madison's Super Bowl. And can you blame them for feeling that way? Like this could be huge for their outside looking in chances for playoff aspirations. So that's why I'm saying that James Madison, despite being in the Sun Belt, I think that they are a quality team. Are they on the same level as Clemson, Miami, and SMU? No, I don't think so. But are they on the same level as some of the other ACC teams that you're going to face this year? Without a doubt, 100% they are. So it's not going to be a cakewalk on paper. Like some that say, oh, well, Louisville's going to win this game by 40 points. They could, but I don't think that that's probable. I think that there are three possible outcomes here. I do think that Louisville wins the game at the end of the day. There is the outcome that it is a very, very close game, too close for comfort, and the Cardinals escape upset. There's the second option where, they win by 10 to 17 points. It's close to the spread. Maybe it's not comfortable, but you have the lead far out ahead to where you're not really on complete upset alert. And then in the other situation, Louisville just wins this game in blowout fashion. I think that all three options are possible. I think it's going to depend on which Louisville team shows up. A Sun Belt team is usually one that runs the ball a lot, which I think plays into Louisville's strengths. I think that James Madison, with the veterans that they're bringing back from last year, a coach that understands the task at hand. I mean, there was also, you kind of think back to 2022, James Madison was supposed to be one of those giant killer level teams, and Louisville beat them 34-10. It was close in the first half somewhat, and the Cardinals were able to, break the game open in the second half. And I think that that's sort of what's going to happen on Friday night. Like, I think that this game could very well be close for the first quarter and a half, maybe even first half. And I think that Louisville is going to then be able to pull away in the second half. To what extent, in terms of what margin, I don't know. I do think that this game is going to be very close to the spread. Like I've seen some say, well, if Louisville doesn't win this game by 21 points, it's a disappointment. I'm like, See, that's where I think that the perception of James Madison comes into play. I think that JMU is a better team than someone to give them credit for. I don't think that they are a team that you have to play 100% your best game to have a chance to beat. I think that if you maybe not win, but you don't lose the turnover battle. I was about to say the transfer portal battle. I was like, that's not how that works. If you don't lose the turnover battle, if you don't continue to hurt yourself with unnecessary penalties, I mean, I think that if Louisville plays a clean game, they're winning this game by close to the spread. I feel that way. Louisville has a more talented team, and no disrespect to JMU, but a team on the outside of the top 25. I mean, you still have to wonder, how good is James Madison? Louisville, a team with playoff aspirations, you should beat James Madison. You should beat them by double digits. And I think that that's going to be the outcome here. I think that James Madison, while being better than they are perceived as at the moment, I still think that this Louisville team is better. They've got more talent on both sides of the football. And, I mean, you have one of the best coaches in the ACC. Another reason why I like that potential outcome for the Cardinals is because where this game is on the schedule. Second game of the year, following Eastern Kentucky. You're not dealing with many injuries. Your guys are fresh. You've got a bye week next week. I love the placement of this game because there's really no way that you can view this as a trap. Like, if Louisville's unprepared for James Madison, then that's on the coaching staff, and that's unacceptable because you can't overlook a team in the second game because there's no excuse. Like last year and the year before that, when you had the trap game, you lost to Pittsburgh in 23. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. That was immediately after the Notre Dame game. Stanford was right after the Clemson game. Like this year, you don't have that before or after. Like Eastern Kentucky's before. And then you have a bye right after the James Madison game, followed by the game against Bowling Green, in which you're supposed to win by a good amount of points. Like you don't have an ACC team for 3 weeks after the James Madison game. So if you overlook this team, then that's on you. Like there's no excuse that can be made. So I think that James Madison is a good team. I think that Bob Chesney has a really good squad that's going to win the Sun Belt. Hey, there's giant killers every single year, and James Madison could be one of them. If Louisville handles business, I don't think that that's going to happen. And we're going to preview this matchup a little bit more tomorrow, discuss the keys to the game, what we need to see from Louisville, the players to watch for, why this is a huge game for the Cardinals defense, and much more. But when we come back, we're going to answer the first 3 questions of the 6-part weekly mailbag. Question about Isaac Brown as a potential Heisman candidate. We'll answer that question and more when we come back on this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at Upside. If you are still paying full price for gas, it's time to stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year from buying gas that, look, you already needed. So why not take advantage of it? At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can as well. Plus, you can cash out at any time to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app now using my promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's the promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. While I have you here, let's talk about the title sponsor of the show, Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep moving the game forward. One of the highlights from this past week's game against Eastern Kentucky that defined the game, or at least set the tone, was Colin Lacey's 93-yard punt return for a touchdown. Doubled the lead and set the tone offensively for what was to come. Look, when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. As always, thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Be sure to leave a YouTube comment on any of the mailbag questions that we're going to talk about, what you think about James Madison, and what you think about the game coming up on Friday night. But let's dive into this 2-part weekly mailbag. First question: can Isaac Brown become a realistic Heisman candidate? Very, very good question. One that has kind of, been playfully tossed out there, right? Like Isaac Brown could be a Heisman candidate. I, for full transparency, believe that the way that the award is shifting, the running back position isn't in a great spot to win a Heisman. I think that it's going to take a very special situation like an Ashton Jeanty having the season that he did. It's going to take, and this goes for like the non-quarterbacks as well. Like Travis Hunter was a two-way star, something we hadn't seen since Charles Woodson. Devontae Smith back in 2020, like an incredible wide receiver season. I think that it's going to depend on how the quarterbacks play this year. Like the quarterbacks are being hyped up so much. Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, like if those guys don't live up to expectations, maybe there is an opportunity for a running back. Isaac Brown rushed 6 times for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns against Eastern Kentucky. He's going to have to turn in, I would say, probably close to a 1,500-yard season, if not more, because he's got to blow everyone away in the Heisman conversation. And not to mention, you've got guys like potentially Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams that could be on the outside looking in, the Penn State running backs, the Notre Dame running backs, you name it. So to be a realistic Heisman candidate, he has to just be have an incredible season for a running back. Like, it's going to take probably 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns, and Louisville being really good for him to be that realistic candidate. How important of a game is this for the Louisville defense? Well, not to be lame or to have a cop-out, but every single game is an important game for a Louisville defense that had its fair share of question marks heading into the season. Now, the Eastern Kentucky game, week 1 was a success. Like, there were 17 points on the board, but only 10 of those scored by the Eastern Kentucky offense. The field goal was on a short field. Or was the field goal on a short field? One of their scores was on a short field. The Cardinals defense gave up, well lower than 200 total yards. So, and didn't play their starters past the third quarter for the most part. But Cardinals defense exceeded week 1 like they were supposed to. Week 2, I think it's going to be like your first legit test for both sides of the ball. It's going to be a legit test for the team as a whole. But defensively, you're going up against an offense that runs the ball. Sunbelt offenses are trademarked by ground and pound. They run the football. Of course, they throw opportunistically and they can air it out. But usually with the Sunbelt offense, you're going to see the team run the ball. So for James Madison, it's going to be about trying to set the tone at the line of scrimmage and run the football. Louisville's defense, I feel like, judging based upon how they historically have been under Jeff Brom and what this personnel group should be the best at, I think that run defense is something that plays into the Cardinals' favor. James Madison rushed for 313 yards in the season opener against Weber State. They end up winning the game 45-10. I think that this is going to be an opportunity to show that Louisville has improved with defending the mobile quarterback, because whether it's Alonzo Barnett III or Matt Sluka, James Madison's going to have some wrinkles in their game plan. Bob Chesney's going to definitely use that dual threat ability to make sure that Louisville can stop it, because Louisville showed last season that they couldn't for the most part. So it's going to be a test for that. I think that if Louisville's defense can prevent a high-scoring affair, that's going to work for the Cardinals. Personally, I just feel like in a game where you're still favored by double digits, it might not be the same levels of Eastern Kentucky, but there's more weight on a bad performance from the defense than a good performance, because you're expected to be good on that side of the ball. You're expected to be good in this game. If you struggle and give up a ton of points, then it's going to be a lot more detrimental. You have more to lose than more to gain in this game. Final question of this segment: how important are style points in this game against James Madison? Do the Cardinals need to blow the Dukes out? I think that it depends on what your definition of blowing James Madison out looks like, right? Is it 21 plus? Is it double digits? Is it the eye test? What are we talking about here? What's the definition? What's the rubric? What are you looking for? For me, I'll say that style points are incredibly important, because perception is key. Of course, at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win every day of the week and twice on Sundays. But when it comes to a team that has playoff aspirations and a conference that already isn't perceived that highly in the ACC, you can't get enough style points. The more that you beat teams by, the higher that your team is going to be regarded as, right? So Louisville wins this game easily or in blowout fashion. That's going to do some really good things for the Cardinals' perception. If they win this game by 3 points, you might have a conversation how good is Louisville? Because the rest of the country is not going to think of James Madison as good as we potentially think that they could be, because it's, again, a non-Power 4 team. Back to that perception argument. But whether it's 13.5 or 16.5, I think if Louisville covers the spread, then it's a success. Of course, winning the game is a success, but it is ideal if the Cardinals cover the spread. Because if you beat James Madison by 17 plus points, that's a good margin of victory for a team that, I mean, what are they in the preseason? What are they in the current AP poll? Let's see, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 39 compared to Louisville being 30th. So James Madison being a top 40 team by the AP rankings, like that's going to look good on your resume if you beat them by the spread. So style points are important. I don't think that you have to beat this team like you did at Eastern Kentucky, but I mean, a win is a win. When we come back, we got some questions about men's basketball official visits, question about a current player and whether or not he's on campus, and much more. We'll answer those questions when we come back on the final segment of this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Coordination, at this time, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash, just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. I talked about him in the last segment. Colin Lacey, 93-yard punt return for a touchdown, over 200 total yards, whether it was on offense, whether it was on special teams. He was your player of the game. The performance was not a fluke. Colin Lacey will soon be on a streak of good performances. Just like Colin Lacey delivered for the Louisville Cardinals, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Coordination, tomorrow's episode of the show is technically the full breakdown for the James Madison preview. We're going to talk about this game for the Cardinals defense, the keys to the game on both sides of the football, players to watch for, and much more as we get closer and closer to 7 o'clock primetime kickoff for the Louisville Cardinals against the James Madison Dukes at Cardinal Stadium on ESPN2. But let's put football to the side briefly. We have some men's basketball questions that I'd like to get to on the second part of this weekly mailbag. The first question is about two players that Louisville is recruiting. Talon Kinney, Coleman Landrew are taking more official visits throughout the fall. It's making me a little nervous that they are doing so. Does this reflect Louisville's chances at getting either one? Well, I like where Louisville is sitting in the Talon Kinney recruitment. Pat Kelsey just visited him for an in-home visit. Apparently it was at midnight. I've never even heard about that. Like, how does a midnight in-home visit, like, when did those start? But apparently he was watching Kinney work out earlier on Wednesday morning. But, I mean, Talon Kinney, I really, really like where Louisville is sitting. I think that the Cardinals are in the driver's seat for this recruitment. Coleman Landrew visited the Cardinals program officially this past week. He has a bunch of SEC visits lined up. I mean, it's going to be a challenging recruitment, but Louisville has started to prioritize the rising four-star wing from Georgia. Ultimately, it's going to be a tough battle. You're going against some pretty tough competition, but we're in an era of college athletics where recruits are getting paid to make these visits. So the days of early commitments, they're not going to be extinct, but they're not also going to be as prevalent as they were in years past. Like, I think of the 24/7 Sports Composite Top 40, less than, I think 5 of them have committed so far. So there's just no reason to commit at the moment. Like, secure the bag. If you're getting paid to go on official visits where you're going to get extremely good treatment for a weekend and be able to tour the country and college campuses, why would you not? So I don't think that the fact that they're taking visits reflects where Louisville sits in either of these two recruitments. What are the Louisville Cardinals' chances of landing Jackson Richardson after his official visit to Louisville was announced? So Jackson Richardson, a player that we talked about on this show, 5-star prospect from Miami, Florida, plays at Columbus High School, where the Boozer twins came from, also where TJ Capers came from, and I think Stanquan Clark as well, if I'm not mistaken, came from Columbus High School. But anyways, it's a recruitment where Louisville offered him when Pat Kelsey got the job. He made an unofficial visit to campus to watch a game this past winter. So amidst that Louisville winning streak, because the Cardinals didn't lose many games after January 1st, but didn't really hear much after that. Well, it was announced on Tuesday that he would have a scheduled official visit for the weekend of November 8th. So I haven't seen the full schedule, but I think that the Cardinals would have a game that weekend. So he would be able to check out the men's basketball game. The Cardinals will play California at home in football. So perhaps he'll be there as well. But there are two schools that I'm really worried about here. The first one is USC. He visits there September 20th. Eric Musselman is the coach. Musselman coached his dad. And that is that's something where, that family connection could be tough to beat because of that relationship. And his dad, of course, Quentin Richardson. Actually, I think it was Jason Richardson was his dad, not Quentin Richardson. I'm sorry. Jason Richardson, Jackson's dad, played for Eric Musselman, or Musselman was a coach on a team that Richardson's dad was on. The second team that I'm worried about is the hometown team, Miami. Miami now with Jai Lucas, they're recruiting really well. The NIL is there. There is an appeal to stay home, where Miami was really not really a school you wanted to go play basketball for. They did a good job of recruiting this cycle. Transfer portal recruiting saw a spike to where, the Hurricanes could be good. And if they show that they are, then, more incentive to stay home. So USC and Miami are the two teams I'm watching out for here. But I like that Louisville is currently scheduled to get the last official visit as of right now. And if he makes that visit, you have to feel good about the Cardinals' chances in this recruitment. So I think it's too early to tell, only being September 4th, but going to be a good opportunity. Final question. This question has been asked a couple times. Is Vangelis Zougaras on campus? Yes, he is. There was a picture of him with Michael Brown out in front of the Louisville Slugger Museum, I believe. But to my knowledge, and I would be very, very surprised if Vangelis Zougaras was not on campus. So that answer is yes. But that is going to wrap up the weekly mailbag. That's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. Back early tomorrow. It's game day. Cards football is back against James Madison. We'll have the full preview breakdown when we come back on the Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Go Cards.